Showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix and LK Mason.
Give them that flavor.
Yo, what is the deal, folks? This is your host, Nova Phoenix, and you are listening to GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio. We have returned with another episode for you guys. Got some nice music. And first and foremost, on a serious note, let me like to give my condolences and prayers and love, light, and support to the victims of the mass shootings that took place over the weekend, this past weekend in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio. A lot of people died, and it's unfortunate for these two mass shootings to be so close to each other. It's like devastating. It was devastating, the one in El Paso, but then all of a sudden you wake up and you hear this happen in Dayton, Ohio. Oh, okay. Well, we'll get into that a little later. But right now, we're going to get into the episode for you guys and what we got going on, just to get things rolling, rocking and rolling, and staying on time. Because you know how I like to do things in just an hour, right? So, the first episode is about Scottie Beam. Everybody knows Scottie Beam. Scottie Beam was previously from Hot 97 morning radio show, Ebro in the Morning. She left. She did her thing with on Revolt with State of the Culture, I believe. And then she left there, and she's doing her own thing. Big up. She's always pushing and trying to challenge herself where she needs to go in her career. That's what's up. I saw one tweet because I follow her on my Twitter, and it was funny. She said something about, she says her tweet was, "I swear romance in a movie will have me daydreaming all day." Yeah. And I saw that, and I responded, and I tweeted back to her. I said, yes, it will. Don't get pulled in. A lot of women use these movies as a measuring stick to see what a man is doing or not in real life. It's all fake. Switch the channel. Actually, good topic for the next show. So, and it is the topic for this show right now. And I found it interesting how sometimes a lot of women can kind of get wrapped up in these movies, man, and it just gives them a false sense of what to expect in a relationship. And I'm not saying in particular Scottie Beam. I thought it was a good spark off a conversation on what women expect in relationships and gender roles and all that, and it led to a greater tangent than I was going on thinking about it as far as, gender roles in society. So bear with me. I want to paint this picture and get my thoughts out because a lot of conversation is happening about what gender roles are necessary in society, what is old school, what should be new school, boom, boom, boom. And it was always this debate going on, what's expected from both sides. Now, I'm going to preface it with, this is going to speak of the male and female. Those specifically, not anything else. I'm talking about that as the male and female roles, just to give us heads up. So just bear with me. So as I paint this picture. So the first primates came in 55 million years ago, right? 3.2 million years ago, Lucy, the famous discovery of the earliest human in Africa, was discovered in Hadar, Ethiopia. Let's fast forward through a lot of different, how should I say, a lot of different shoots or offshoots of, early humans that spun off from, the ape. And I can't go into any specifics, but let's just fast forward about 50,000 years ago, all right, where you have Homo sapien. So 50,000 years ago, we had the great leap forward, and, human culture begins to advance. Rituals are found, clothes from animal hides. Scientists found complex hunting. 12,000 years ago, modern humans was found in the Americas. 10,000 years ago, agriculture develops and spreads. Domestication of animals, villages develop. 5,500 years ago, Stone Age and the Bronze Age has commenced. Humans are smelting and working on metals. civilizations have advanced to the stages that we know of today. Now, that is debatable because now I forgot this guy's name. I can't think of it right now, but the challenge has been presented as far as ancient Egypt, that ancient Egypt culture could have gone back even further from what the traditional knowledge of the history, going back like 5,500 BC. They're thinking because of weather patterns and what they found of the evidence of the Sphinx, and they see grooves coming down on the side of the Sphinx, that if they matched it with the weather patterns of the time, ancient Egypt could go back even further to 10,000 years ago. But let's just say 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, the Stone Age, Bronze Age commenced, and domestication of animals and such and so forth, or what we know as ancient Kemet, right? So, my thought on that, leading up to the present day. Since millions of years ago, the distinction of the male and female roles were defined through nature. The males who were stronger, the physical half, the hunter-gatherer warrior, and the females who, again by nature, were meant for the passing on of the genetic code, childbearing. These attributes of responsibilities of the male who hunted the food and fought rival males, and the nurturer, the women, the roles of child rearing, home upkeep, maintenance of clothes, food, customs, rituals, tradition sharing were more so female, even though they did share between the male and female. But of course, they also shared it with the grandparents, the older generation, because as they aged, they stayed in the village and they helped raise the kids, right? Our environment dictated how the species survived, and roles were organically relegated to the biological gender purpose of the species. Okay, so gender roles were defined in early humans, which later took shape into designated responsibilities between male and female. So later on in recent history, let's just say about 5,000 years ago, let's say that, patriarchal societies started to twist the roles of women as being weak, subservient, and the less intelligent or adultish, right? They were not worthy to take on the roles of the men. You're not worthy. The logical reasoning was because of might, strength, the warrior class. It was further embedded thoroughly in religion, and religion was used as a tool to maintain those ideas of what women and men should do, right? And you can find that in the marriage vows for women, as we all know it. I think it's taken out recently, but remember the marriage vows went to go as this: I take you to be my husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love, cherish, and obey, till death do us part, according to God's holy law. You heard that part, right? Obey. That was in the marriage vows, to obey the husband. Okay? You see how it's even worked into the marriage vows. So it continues to change negatively and take shape as being the pretty damsel that needed rescuing from men. Like the kids' stories, like Snow White, Cinderella, Lady and the Tramp, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, Beauty and the Beast. It came to translate further in society on women not being able to vote. They didn't vote, they didn't work, they stayed at home, they listened to the quote-unquote man of the house. All these things was a cumulative conditioning that warped how women should be treated in society. Now, all these ideas just recently started to be challenged in the last 100. Now, mind you, as I said, I gave a backdrop on the human history from the beginning of human time. It's just recently, in the last 100 years, that these ideas started to get challenged. Women got the right to vote. They started working, taking political office. And then women over the centuries, through many different societies, they've always had high political offers. But it was, they held high political office, but it was scattered in between the men that were taking these positions. So like now, recently in politics, you see women that they're everywhere in politics. And that has just been a recent change in the last 50 years. 50 years, okay? Okay, what does this all have to do with Scottie being getting pulled into this talk about movies and relationships? I say it like this: our gender roles are natural biological designs that took, if not, say, millions, and I know I'm saying millions, but the defined ones in the last hundreds of thousands of years to be developed and refined. However, these same roles can also be learned behavior from the society we exist in. Like our books, our television, the peers, they all contribute to how we see ourselves as male and female. Some for the good and some for the bad. And one way to romanticize how relationships should be and use it as a guideline, especially from these movies, of how women should treat men and how men should treat women is a dangerous thing. We can't live our lives as if it's the movie The Notebook with Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling. Yeah, I saw that movie too. Yeah. These are carefully crafted movies that, if we are not careful, can be used in how we should be treated as far as the genders are concerned. So when reality conflicts with the idea, it causes discomfort and pain to the individual. And you may say, oh no, these are just stories. I mean, they're not that serious. No. So these stories affects our decision making because it's what we think we desire when really they're just stories to sell a book or movie. Okay, so right now, technology has upset the gender normative ideas we have. Men do not live by the strength alone, and women do not live their lives to procreate. We have created new ideas, new stories, and a new worldview of how we see gender, and it can only happen by letting go of the old ones and enjoying them as make-believe, while at the same time creating the ones that truly reflect how we should perceive each other in this world today. So, this is how I feel. Some things do say the same. Women still like men to help with the heavy stuff in the house, take out the garbage, have men approach them in a date, protect them when needed. And men still like to chase the women, have younger spouses in some cases. I'm not saying all, in some cases. We're wired to spread the seed. That's what we're wired to do. As modern humans, we can live by new rules and tweak the code by behavioral adjustments. We can tweak the wired code. You know what I mean? And some people may say that's debatable because you're going to be like, what you mean, why to spread the seed? Well, again, that's debatable. But ultimately, I think we can do something else. We are wired to do certain things, but we can train ourselves to live or be another way, to have a new way of being. And this is just a thought process that I had, thinking about. And I'm not an expert. These are only things that I've read over time. I think my own accumulative knowledge of male and female relationships and understanding human history and reading about, the different variations of humans till we got the human Homo sapiens and understanding ancient societies, Rome, Greece, Egypt, and just learning recent societies. It's just an expanse of what I've kind of opened myself up to and in the understanding of the society that we live in today. So I think there's certain things that male and females are wired to do. Like, you can't avoid a period. That's just, women can't avoid that. And the emotional swings that come with that, can't avoid that. That's built in. That's wired into the female gender, right? And there are some things that are wired into men. And then we have to accept that and not treat it as something to look down upon. I think we have to respect ourselves as animals. We're no different from any other animals in the animal kingdom. No different from birds, bears, insects, dogs, cats. We have certain natural inclinations for certain things. We're wired a certain way. But as human beings, we can step outside of that, and through behavioral conditioning or learn lessons, we can kind of step out of that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think we can't think of ourselves a certain arrogance that, we stand above all other animals or outside the animal kingdom. when we are affected by the same natural rules as all other animals on this planet. So, what does that mean to say? Well, it's all up to Scottie being and all the rest of the women on the planet on wagging the finger at men. I swear, I can't stand you. And they go start thinking about these films, you know what I mean? The Notebook and all these romantic films. I'm like, yo, I'm not Ryan Gosling. Jesus Christ. And I'll throw out the garbage later. So, all right, that's my little spiel on that, gender roles. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's just my thought. That's my opinion. All right, so we're going to get into the first song. The first song is Gray Genius. It's off her latest EP, Late Night Cool Drinks. And this song is called Double Up. Check it out.
Double up, double cup, feeling much, feeling numb, lose my tongue, feeling sprung, you the one and then some. Maybe it's the drink, sip it slow, when I'm low, get me high, feeling slow. No go, it's a no go. I've been at this for 3 days. Tried to look at it from each way. Took time for clarity. After a while, then it occurred to me, you ain't for me. You stingy with your time. You just show me you ain't mine. You ain't it for me. And I admit solely, I'm the only one to blame. Cause I stuck around and played. I hate when I feel this way. That's why I double up, double up, double up.
Ooh, a GCOM exclusive.
Feeling sprung, you the one and then some. Maybe it's the drink, sip it slow. When I'm low, get me high, feeling slow. No go, it's a no go. I said I got problems and you got answers. So let's meet up and chase the sun head first. Feet won't slip, yesterday is behind us. And it won't find us. Cover my hair with an umbrella. When the rain falls down, you can make it all better. You might come down and take me up to heaven. And yeah, we might fall down, but we can crash together. Remember when I thought of you like that? Remember back then when we was cool like that? There wasn't any rules, we just moved on what mattered. It's probably why we ain't together. So if I take all this angst and all this shame to fill up my cup, sip slow through the pain. The feelings I'm feeling, they won't go away until that day. I guess I'll just double up, double cup. Feeling much, feeling numb, lose my tongue, feeling sprung. You the one and then some. God, it's the drink, sip it slow. When I'm low, get me high, feeling slow. No go, it's a no go. Double up, double cup. Feeling much, feeling numb, lose my tongue, feeling sprung. You the one and then some. Maybe it's the drink, sip it slow. When I'm low, get me high, feeling slow. No go.
Sounding off around the world. You are listening to GCOM Radio.
Yeah, that was Gray Genius. I like that name, man. It's original. Unlike all these Lils and all these Youngs, I like Gray Genius, especially for women. I know what she's trying to get at. That's fly. I like that name. So yeah, that was her song Double Up, man. Check her out on her website. Just Google Gray Genius, she'll pop up. So I'm looking forward to more stuff from this young lady. So now let's get into the second segment. What are we talking about? Oh, Idris, man. I read out on rollingout.com, man. Idris has a feeling about the advancements of technology. One of the core subject matters that we so adore on this show, and it's a part of Lyfeblood.com. So he says, and I quote, A part of me is sad about the ever-increasing technological development. We people have emotions. Unlike computers or artificial intelligence, we can adapt. And that's not to say that he's totally against it, because there's certain things that do benefit humanity. But, I think we have to accept the changing of the society that's coming, that's here, and what is going to develop in the next 20 years. He's going to be alive for this change. So, this is my thing. Benefits from a new society. All right, and this is my personal feelings. I think by this change, and as jobs start to wither away, people are going to start thinking, okay, what do we do? How are we going to do this? And I'm simplifying it, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of chaos, and there's going to be a lot of anger, and there's going to be some fighting and some killing. Trust me, it's going to happen. Because when it gets to a point that there's so many jobs that are just gone, people are going to be like, wait a second, I still gotta, as I said before on my old show, on one of the previous episodes, when the economic model is work to make money in order to pay rent, mortgage, car, school, and all these things, and once the work is no longer there, but yet you still got to pay these other things, it's going to come. We're gonna have a major problem in society, and it's not gonna come from politicians, man, because they're busy getting theirs. So let's be real. Politicians are busy getting their money, but this is how the benefits of this new society can come. And they did actually speak about it, because it was Mark Zuckerberg. It was, what's the brother that runs Microsoft? I can't remember this dude's name. Anyway, there's a chosen few, and I think also Elon Musk. And they said that we have to start a robot tax, because once all these robots start taking the majority of the work that humans were doing, we just can't leave humans on the side, right? So let's create this robot tax where, certain monies can be given to the people. Universal basic income, it's all tied in. It's been an ongoing subject matter. Now this robot tax that Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and that they're talking about is basically universal basic income, just saying it in another way. But here's how the society can benefit. You'll have time with the family. One of the major things that we have a problem in society is that we don't have enough time to be with our kids. And when our kids can't be around the parents, they're the nucleus. Basically, the kids take all the behavior, the culture, the customs, the tradition from mother and father and grandparents, and also, cousins and uncles and nieces and all that stuff. It comes from there. So society, the nucleus of society is the family unit. But if the parents are so busy working, where do you think those kids are going to get their ideas from? They're going to get it from their friends, and they may not be fully mature to really deal with the issues that are affecting them in their neighborhood, in their community. And don't come from a poor community. Don't come from the hood, because then all you're going to do is get negative ideas of what it is to be a human living out your life, whether you're male or female. And you're going to have a lot of strife, and you join gangs, and all of a sudden, kids die. We already know how the hood outcome is. All right. Everybody knows boys in the hood. This is what happens. You spend more time with the family. The kids will get the ideas from the parents. They're not going to be like, majority of their time is not going to be MTV or Madonna or Beyonce or whatever. Not to say Beyonce is bad. I just throwing out names. But anybody else that we feel that may have a negative impression on our kids. 2, medical attention and health. If you are not working as many hours, or you don't need the job, or the job has disappeared, now you can handle anything that may come to affect you medically, whether you have cancer, whether you have high blood pressure, whether you have fibrosis, or any of one of these medical ailments. The doctor would tell you, I said this on the show, the doctor said, okay, Mr. Jones, you have high blood pressure, or you need to lose weight, or you have this, but you cannot deal with it because the society or the responsibilities that you have it's not conducive for you to handle your health and make it primary, because you got to work 12-hour days. You got to work 80-hour weeks. And then all of a sudden you still got to get the kids. And what happens? What do you put on the back burner? Your own health. And now you get sicker. You can't deal with it. And it gets to the point where now it's a life or death situation. And now everything has to be put to the side, but it didn't need to be. All right. If we were living in a society where we can handle our health right away, whatever comes up, we could deal with it. We can handle it. We could put that as primary and then be with our kids and do all those other things. Well, we can't, because we're busy working long freaking hours. Okay. Number 3, learn a new skill. Actors, musicians. You know what's funny about actors and musicians, right? Especially the famous ones. You know what makes them so interesting? It's not because of the talent that they have that an actor can act and take on these roles, right? Or musicians that make fantastic music that we really connect with. It's the ability for them to be interesting people by doing other things that they have time for. As an actor, you're an actor, you make a $5 million movie, you do 3 movies a year, you got $15 million, you are well off, all right? So now you do 3 movies, they say about what? 3 movies takes about 3 months sometimes, 3, 6, 9 months out the year you're working, right? And they do long hours too, because they got to bang out that movie, right? They have responsibilities, networks and everything like that. So they're banging it out. And all of a sudden they have the last 3 months of their of the year. Or sometimes they may, I'm taking a break next year, I'm chilling, and they take a year off. Now they have time to do these other things, which makes them interesting human beings. They know they've done martial arts, they know how to drive a car very well, like they were the getaway driver in the last movie, and they've actually taken on these real skills in order to be believable in this movie. But now they have the skill. They go to Dubai or they go to India and they absorb the culture, and they come back with trinkets and ideas and concepts and languages and certain insights from other cultures, and they share it with people. Make some interesting people. Or they go off and they're in great shape because they again have to do it for the movie. They're in great shape. So all of these things over a 5-10 year period, all of a sudden you meet this actor and you're somehow you hang out with them at lunch, and they have this wealth of information and experiences that the average person doesn't have. That's what makes them interesting people. Okay. And if you say Brad Pitt or something like that, right? That's what makes them interesting people, not just their talent. Now imagine if every person can have the actor's life or the musician's life, and you have all this time to travel and experience other things and people and food and world views, and you can improve your own outlook on how you see yourself and where you see yourself in the greater society. Everyone has the ability to do that, but you can't, because you have to work 80-hour weeks. All right. It doesn't matter if you're making $50,000 a year or $200,000 a year. We all have responsibilities that we have to work year round in order to afford certain expense or pay for certain expenses and afford certain luxuries. But it's nowhere compared to an actor and musician. So learning new skills. And the other thing is, as a part of learning new skills, is I think one of the 2 greatest misconceptions about people in society is, 1, you stop learning when you're in college, and 2, you stop working after you retire. I think those are the greatest misconceptions ever, because you never stop learning, especially after you finish college. You're always learning. You're a student of life. You can learn to be a meteorologist in college, and then all of a sudden you feel like doing something else at 30, and you say, I want to be a chef, and you do a career shift. We're always learning. And after we retire, we don't stop thinking. You know why? How we know this? Because CEOs don't stop thinking or working. They have every chance to leave the jobs that they started or leave the businesses that they started. I mean, the filthy rich ones. But do they stop learning, or do they stop experiencing, or stop working? No, they still get up as if they're, have a job to go to. I know CEOs or founders of businesses that are in their 80s and they still come to the office. because it's been a part of their life for so long. They have to do it. They don't have to do it if they're like, 80 years old, but it's a part of who they are. So they come into work. Personally, for me, would I do that? No, I wouldn't do that. I'd spend my days on a beach figuring out another problem. I put, hey, to each their own. 4 is travel. And I said that as an actor or a musician. You get to travel. You go to Bora Bora, you go to New Zealand, you go to South Africa, you go to Japan, and you start to see yourself as just more than the citizen of the country that you're in. And you no longer say, in this instance, see yourself as an American, but now you can see yourself as a human living on this blue pearl, because you get to see how other human beings live. Different languages, the food, the customs, the traditions, and sometimes they can give you words of wisdom that can improve you as a human being. Now, as our technology advances, they're going to be like, it's going to be automated planes, guaranteed, because if they could fly a drone from halfway in any one of these wars in Afghanistan, eventually, I'm telling you, they're going to do that with people, and they kind of do that, but the pilots are still in their seats. As I've heard before, that the pilots are just there. The plane flies itself when it's in the air. And I think the pilots take over for takeoff and for landing. So it's almost like automated planes anyway. So when technology invades that industry, it's going to affect pilots too. And it's going to come to the point where flying is going to be extremely cheap. It's going to be ridiculously low. It's going to be nothing. You're going to be able to go to London for like $100. And that is, I think, is a necessary eventuality that has to come that's going to benefit humanity. We have to travel, man. The world is more than Kentucky. It's more than Nebraska. It's more than Ohio. It's more than California. There are 7.5 billion people on this planet. I think it's time for us to recognize our neighbors, shake their hand, and respect their culture, respect their humanity, and believe me, it will change you like it's never changed before, guaranteed. And 5th and last thing, human motivations change as far as the changing of technology. The human motivations change. And now I've said in the first segment, through the millions of years of human evolution, coming into modern times, modern human as we know in ancient Rome, Greece, Kemet, there were different motivations. There was war, there was politics, geopolitics, there was jealousy, there was envy, lack of resources, such and so forth. But with technology that we have today, or what's coming in the near future, 10 or 15 years, because trust me, the technology has already been invented. We're keeping it back, or certain people in certain industries are keeping it back. The motivations will change from war to peace when it comes with resources and rare metals and all these things. Scarcity will turn to abundance. There is no scarcity. We have abundance. We can control food. We can control how much we make. And it doesn't have to be in soil. Hunger to food prosperity. Hunger to food. There will be no starvation. Everyone will have the ability to eat and to have a full plate every day on the meal if they so want. Okay? Poverty will become more of an economic parity because, again, if we're talking about the robot tax, you're going to have to, people are going to have to find a way to live. All right? And lastly, homelessness to fair housing, and how this turns from poverty to economic parity between these two subject matters. Because again, with the robot tax, you have to pay people to live because there's no jobs left and people are getting money. Now they can pay for the housing. Now there's a robot tax that comes out and the state or whatever entity, state, whatever federal, is paying that guy so he can live, so he can pay his home and all these other things. Then what about the guy that was homeless for the last 10 years? It would be illogical to pay this man in order for him to keep his home when you can't provide a home for someone that's been homeless for 10 years. It's a conflicting, two conflicting concepts or ideas. So you're going to help the man you're going to help the individual not to lose his home, or the iron worker not to lose his home, to keep his car. And at the same time, you're going to eventually have to deal with the fact that you have to give housing to this homeless person. So this is how poverty to economic parity is tied into homelessness to fair housing. You cannot sustain the economy or sustain people through a robot tax and not consider the people that were homeless for 10, 15 years. It's kind of like the marijuana deal. You can't legalize marijuana and have people make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month and let it become $1 billion, multi-billion dollar industry. And then all of a sudden you still have a whole crowd of people locked up in the prison industrial complex because of that very thing that was illegal at some point in time in the past. So I think there are benefits in the society when we invite technology, and there will be challenges. There will be gaps where there's going to be some chaos, because the current way where we're thinking of it, we're not really dealing with the root cause of the problem, because it's greed and its own self-interest. But at some point, there's going to be brave people that are going to come forward and say, no, we have to deal with this. And we have to use technology to our advantage and make it benefit humanity and the communities where we come from all around the world. And for us to deal with these issues that we've been dealing with it since time immemorial. I think it will be real solutions to issues that we've been dealing with since ancient Kemet. So, all right, let's get out of here. Running over a little time. So let's introduce to you a beautiful artist by the name of Sidibe. And I hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Her name is Sidibe. She has an album that's out now called Reckless Love, and her song is Complacent Love. This song is beautiful, and it's kind of reminiscent of Michael Jackson. I'm telling you, I told her this before on IG. You sound eerily similar to Michael. But you know, she says so, and you know, she's using it. But check out Sidibe. Sidibe. I'll ask her later. Sidibe. Let's go with that. Off her album Reckless Love with Complacent Love. And to back it up, also, I'm sorry, just to give an opening to the other artists. It's also off of Push Audio, the company Push Audio, and they have a project called Push Paradise, and this song is Cambodia. I love this whole project. It's dope. I think it's a dope direction for where we're taking music. This song's called Cambodia, and the artist is I.AM.EM. I.AM.EM featuring Chris Pritham. So let's listen to Sidibe off her album Reckless Love with Complacent Love, and we'll follow it up with the Push Paradise project from Push Audio with Cambodia. I.AM.EM featuring Chris Pritham. Hear this one.
How am I supposed to know if I should let it go? Tell me, is the answer inside? Maybe I should confess there's an emptiness I just can't hide. Giving all your heart to me, whispering I'm all you need, and I don't know what to say. Don't really feel that way. Complacent love, complacent.
What it do?
It's GCOM Radio
I am one of the flyers.
on iHeartRadio.
And I hate the truth. With your love, afraid of what I might miss, scared of a loneliness. I don't wanna say I gave up, but if I stay with you, then we both will lose. I care for you too much. Selfishly, I feel
Turn up.
You're listening to GCOM Radio.
Like a kiss that blew away, and I don't know what to say. Oh no, no. And I hate the truth. And I hate the truth. I don't even wanna look at you. Complacent love. Complacent love. Complacent love. Complacent love. And I hate the truth. Placing with your
Oh man,
Check this out.
we're going in with another one.
It's on.
GCOM Radio.
vacation while we on vacation. It doesn't matter where it is, cause we gon' make it ours.
It's GCOM Radio
I am one of the flyers
on iHeartRadio.
The cookie crumble, but I wanna rake up all the dough. Check it, don't matter where we at. Spin the globe and put a thumb on it. If shorty bad, fine and keep it 100. Lead her entourage at home, we going all for it. She going all for us for it. I love ambition, got a lot to speak and I listen. So fine, got me stuttering my sentences. Call it like you see it. I'm a bad boy, good start. She said I'm chivalrous, nasty with a good heart. Ain't nothing to front, I'm real. What you want? Fall in love from the jump. Only skydiving once, no parachute. Dream couple, who the better choose? You the one, no comparing you. Wherever we land, it's ours. Get a tall glass, marinate upon the odds while we look upon the stars.
Sipping my ties under crystal clear skies way down in Cambodia. Cambodia. Smoking fresh spice, getting glassy. That's nice way down in Cambodia. Cambodia.
Yes, Sidibe off her album Reckless Love with Complacent Love, and Push Audio, this new music company, is coming out with their project Push Paradise, and they have that song Cambodia with I.AM.EM featuring Chris Pritham. Dope joints. But before we continue into this third segment, you know what we gotta get into. Cue the music.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Around the world and right in your neighborhood. It's the news you need to know.
The world's first human-monkey hybrid. Scientists in China have created the first human-monkey hybrid. The project, led by Spanish scientist Juan Carlos Izpisua, the one who created the first human-pig hybrid in 2017, along with his team from Salk Institute for Biological Studies in California and Murcia Catholic University in Spain, injected human stem cells, which are capable of creating tissue and bone, into a monkey embryo. The research was done in China to avoid legal issues. Scientists say if it was injected into a female monkey, a human-monkey hybrid would have been born. There were concerns in the scientific community, in particular, Dr. Angel Raya, director of Barcelona Regenerative Medicine Center, said to a publication, "What happens if the stem cells escape and form human neurons in the brain of the animal? Would it have consciousness? And what happens if these stem cells turn into sperm cells?" The argument was countered by the group, saying that there were mechanisms put in place for the cell to self-destruct if that were to happen. Isn't that how Planet of the Apes started in the first movie? Yeah, I don't know about this. NASA is going back to the moon. NASA is working on getting people back on the moon. It's been decades since the last endeavor, but this time it's for more permanent means. The goal is to get humans back by the year 2024, a short 5 years for NASA people to meet this deadline. The plan is called Artemis. This would involve the design and development of a rocket called the Space Launch System and deep space capsule called the Onion, a space station to orbit around the moon called the Gateway, landers to transport people and equipment to the moon surface, and a multi-purpose spacesuit to fit all space environments. Unfortunately, the project has been marred by budget overruns, high administrative shakeups, and a forced accelerated timeline by the Trump administration. The original plan was to build a space station in 2024 and to travel to the moon by 2028. However, the government request has NASA slimming down the space station for construction so astronauts can also travel to the moon as well in 2024. The Artemis project is on a bumpy course to completing the deadline, and any minor delay can throw them off the cliff. Only time will tell if all involved are up to the challenge to make it. Go USA! And that is the news you need to know. Yeah, so we're going to get into the third segment of the show. I had this plan to talk about something else, but in light of the recent shootings that took place in El Paso and also Dayton, Ohio, I figured it was good to shift the conversation. There's a lot of information that's going around and trying to figure out what was the issue in these two locations, and various news sources are putting in their 2 cents on and not just news sources, but a variety of different people, scholars, celebrities, social media influencers, different people just throwing in their 2 cents on this whole thing. So they're like two opposing thought processes that are discussing what took place, and it's centered on 2 things. It's actually 3 things. It's centered on gun control and the use or access to AR-15s. The second subject matter is mental illness and how much does it play a part in the number of mass shootings that is happening uniquely in America. And lastly, it's racism and how much racism plays into these issues that are plaguing us, or these disastrous, terrible events that is plaguing humans in America. And a lot of people are coming with their different ideas and viewpoints on the causes and how we should deal with it. So it's a hot button topic as of recent, and it has been posed from major news media to, of course, the man who shall not be named, and other politicians as well in the halls of Congress. And of course, this has been done before as far as gun control, and politicians have sidestepped the issue. They brought up something else, or they're not talking about it, or they're just literally just ignoring it. And it's expected. Because people have talked to politicians and demanded answers from politicians. And as we know, politicians are kind of tied into a lot of corporate interests. And in particular, when it comes to guns, they're tied into the corporate interests of a lot of these gun makers. This is not a hard thing to figure out. Okay? So as far as El Paso is concerned, the shooter was named Patrick Crusius. He drove nearly 600 miles to kill 20 people and injure 26, and a lot of them Hispanic Americans, or people of Latino descent. And if that wasn't enough, and hearing this story on Saturday, and then you wake up Sunday morning and you hear another mass shooting that happened in Dayton, Ohio. And this was done by the name later came out, Connor Betts. And the witnesses said that he had a long weapon, quote unquote, with magazines, and he killed up to 9 people and injured 27 people. He also killed his sister in this melee. It's a terrible thing. And as I said, it brings up some serious subject matter on those 3 topics. Mental illness, I feel, in America is something that's swept under the rug, because America deals with its exceptionalism and its status on the world stage when it comes to money, property, military power, let's just say, in the geopolitical sense, and what else? Mainly those things. And corporate health, as I should say, the bottom line. And it's funny how, you cannot just judge the health of a nation based on numbers. You also have to judge it on the health of the people who inhabit that land or are part of that nation. And in the United States of America, we have a serious issue where we sweep under the rug mental illness. It is something that nobody wants to talk about. And they figure, okay, it's just 1 or 2 people, when it's not. I believe there are things that are built into this country that makes us avoid it. And I think, of course, primary is the making of money, because, that's all we're concerned about in this hyper-capitalistic society. The making of money. Let's get these money bags rolling in. Don't worry about the mental illness. Don't worry about the people that's having issues and, they're depressed and all that. Forget about that. But the thing is, when it comes to mental illness, I kind of refer to the old lady that's standing in front of you at a supermarket line. And she's taking her time putting her groceries on the conveyor belt, and all the people in the man behind her is like cursing under his breath and having attitude, and just being real nasty. But my thing about this whole thing is we have to change our perspective. Why don't you help the old lady in front of you to put her groceries on the conveyor belt so she can move a lot faster in getting her transaction done? Because if you help that old lady get that transaction done that much faster, what happens? You get to get in front of that cashier that much faster. Sorry for the flipping of the words there. Fat tongue there. You get to go that much faster. So if you help someone, in turn, you help yourself. It's also in a sense of being in a poor community. When people talk about crime or burglary or something, we always want to look at the victim or someone that's on the receiving end of burglary or crime or getting robbed as, oh, that's their issue. And I don't think we should think about that. This individualism. It has to be thought of in a sense of, let me help this person. Why is little Eric, robbing this old lady or robbing this person? I got to figure out what is the problem. What can we do to keep little Ricky from robbing that person? Because little Ricky may rob you next week. So it's important that we care for others, that we care about the community and figure out what are the issues that are affecting the community, because then it could come back on you. I kind of think the same way with mental illness, which ties in with mass shootings, because we're so busy trying to make money. We're so busy creating the illusion of what America is. A lot of people are falling to the wayside, and you see it come out in these mass shootings. You see it come out with all these kids dying in high school and in grade school, or in a movie theater, or at a music festival, or at a Walmart, a local Walmart, or somewhere, some busy a place in whatever city. I think it's important that we start to deal with in our communities, whether you're from a county, state, town, you have to deal with the mental health of your surroundings. What is going on? How are people doing? And it also ties in with economics, because if you're not, if for some reason you are going through a terrible time financially, you get stressed out, you get depressed, you don't know where to turn. There's angst, there's anger, and a lot of times people bottle in that anger. A lot of people hold it tight and ball it up and keep it in their chest. And the way people release that pressure is in negative ways. People release that pressure as what happens with mass shootings. So you have to get to the root cause of why people are going through such pressure, societal pressure, which is leading them to do these, these heinous, disgusting, just like there's no word for it. It's disgusting crimes, or these events that are taking place. I think that's a serious thing that we have to deal with mentally. We don't deal with it now. How do we deal with this as far as what's happening with what happened in El Paso? So obviously the guy or the shooter that shot up 20 people in El Paso, it came to find out that he posted a racist manifesto online, and that was linking him to, of course, a white nationalism or him having white supremacist ideas that led him to kill the Latino folk down in Walmart that it happened. So my thing is it also, the question is, and this is what's happening in the news and the conversation that's happening online and TV and radio, is racism mental illness? Now, this is my personal feeling, and people may not agree with me. I think at a certain degree, you do have mental illness, and it's tied in with racism. I think you can have, of course, racism where people don't like you because they feel they're white, they're blonde or blue-eyed, and they don't like brown people. But I think the degrees go even that much deeper when someone harbors ill views of you because of race, and sometimes it can tip over the cliff down the chasm into this dark place that you cannot pull them out of. And then all of a sudden you're the mud people, or you smell, you're disgusting, or you shouldn't be on this planet, you're a flea, you're a dog, you're a criminal. And they take all these negative aspects of you, which would lead them to believe that you must be wiped off this planet. Now, I feel again is connected to some deep mental illness. And now they say, look, this is the clinical definition of mental illness: a health condition that changes a person's thinking, feelings, or behavior, or all three, that causes the person distress and difficulty in functioning. That's kind of tied in to racism. I'm not, like I said, the various degrees of racism, but for the offshoots, the fanatics, I feel that they delve deep into dark chasms of this state of being. And I think it's a learned behavior. As of course, as we all know, racism is a learned behavior. But sometimes if you compound it and you condition to someone over the years and decades, and they have these thoughts in their mind, it could go places that a place of no return, so to speak. And I think it's behavioral. It's kind of like racism. And look, I'm gonna take flack for this, but I feel like it's behavioral, kind of like OCD, or like OCD they say is characterized by repetitive, unwanted, intrusive thoughts, obsessions, and irrational, excessive urges to do certain actions, compulsions, like you feel like your pens have to be straightened, or you're not clean enough, or did you close the door? Now, it's a behavioral issue, and some doctors don't understand why OCD happens. But in order to diagnose it, they go through psychotherapy and medication. They take blood tests so they make sure that it has nothing to do with drugs or anything of that nature that's causing this mental illness. And then they'll come to a conclusion of what's happening. But there's other behavioral mental illnesses, like body dysmorphic disorder. You always constantly have a problem about your body, which is not there, but you're latching onto it and you feel that you must lose weight or something or other. There's a hoarding disorder, and there's not something else called trichotillomania. And that means many people develop unhealthy habits such as nail biting or teeth grinding, especially during periods of high stress. And you can hurt yourself in pulling out your hair. What does it say? And I'm reading this. It's a compulsive urge to pull out, possibly eat your own hair, including eyelashes, eyebrows, such and so forth. It is a terrible mental illness where you are hurting yourself. Now, I feel that racism can go to that level. Not only do you have this warped sense of where you fit in the world and where other people of brown and black skin fit in the world, but you have to do something to them. It twists your mind, just like these other mental illnesses. Now, can it be unlearned? Yes, it can be. There was one black man that actually would go to KKK outings. I know you heard about this. I can't remember his name, but he would actually go to these KKK outings and try to connect with KKK people to see, so he could show them his humanity. They could see black people in another way, because a lot of times these people never see black people. The only time they see black people is when they're on TV. And this is the other thing that adds to the conditioning of racism. And he was successful in some ways. Would I do that? Not necessarily. I don't know. But you can unlearn racism. I think the same way where you can unlearn certain diseases. Now, to me, that's the deep, dark part of a mental illness, where I feel kind of connected to racism. Again, this is just my opinion. But I'm not in any way disregarding structural racism, all right? Now, okay, let's just say racism. I believe that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. And that's something that we go through in America as people of color, as black people, as every other race that deals with racism in this country. And not just in this country, but other countries as well. People go through racism in Germany, in Portugal, in Spain, and Italy. They all go through these things. Now, people, again, this is a learned behavior, and people want to exact or they want to practice this belief by inflicting pain on others or hindering others from their of their social progression. And that's how you have structural racism. Structural racism where you can have laws and regulations that limit the freedoms and economic progress of a particular people. You can have structural racism in like banking, in housing, in education, employment, healthcare, justice system, in the prison industrial complex, where you lock up majority black and brown people, again, to make them subservient, to make them second-class citizens. And having these social mechanisms in place would not just validate second-class citizenry, but also prove that white supremacy is the natural order of things. How do we deal with racism and also deal with the structural racism that is in place. I think number one, it would be education. I think we got to change what kids learn in school. There has to be a total reinvention of our public school system and in the curriculum that we teach them. They have to learn world history. They have to understand ancient history and also recent history. And I say recent history like the last 400 or 500 years. It has to be honest. It has to be brutally honest and just understand all the players in the game and how we got to this point in society. I think number two, for those people that are harboring racist ideas, I think the way you deal with racism would be no different with how you deal with mental illness. I think it's psychotherapy. I think you would need psychiatrists. I think you would need straight up sessions with some professionals in order to deconstruct these concepts that people have put in your mind over years. Now, are these people going to do that? No, but you can force them. All right, you can force them. It's the same way we force people to put on seatbelts by making it law. We institutionalized it, and now where people got tickets if they didn't wear the seatbelts, now everybody wears the seatbelts. Also, when you work for a company and you're on drugs, they just don't fire you anymore. You will have to go on some kind of drug program. So if we can institute some things when it comes to drug abuse or bad behavior when we're driving, we could do it for racism. And we can start to dismantle the structural racism that comes from that. And last but not least, I think people should just be exposed to cultures, because a lot of times racism will come about because people just isolate themselves in like these small towns and they have no idea how other cultures of people live by what they see on TV. That's the only way they see others. So I don't know, they have to be cultural events, bringing people together, sharing each other's foods and all these other things, customs, whatever. You gotta expose people to other people. Okay, you got to do that. And I think that's one way. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm just giving my ideas how you start to deal with racism honestly. And it has to be brave. It has to be bold. It has to be driven, and you have to be able to root it out. No different how you root out alcoholism. So I think that at the end of the day, and bottom line, we're not dealing with these issues. We're sweeping them on the rug. We're sweeping mental illness under the rug, and we're also sweeping structural racism and white supremacy under the rug. Because let's be honest, there's certain people in the society, in politics, in law, in the Justice Department, not just justice, what do you call it? I'm sorry, in the justice system. In every facet of the society where they want to maintain their edge. And if they have to deal with structural racism and deal with racism in itself, that means they will start to lose, quote unquote, the race. And then they'll feel like, wait a second, I'm not getting my due. I'm not getting my privileges, because white people know their privileges. They know this. They know what happens. So I think we have to stop playing this game, like this oblivious game, like white folks do not recognize their privilege, because white folks use their privilege every day when they like pulling a card. All right, like get out of jail free card. They pull this card all the time when it comes to work, when it comes to, getting food, when it comes to calling the cops. White folks know what it means when you call the cops on black people. Because just as we see the videos of what happens with black folk and the cops, it's the same videos that they watch, and they know, I can get this same. It's possible I can get this same outcome for me, and I'm going to use these cops so I can exact my power, so I can exact my white privilege. It happens. It's a real thing. I think we have to come to terms with that. We have to understand it. And I know this is a hot button topic. I know people are going to be like, what are you talking about, Nova? Racism ain't mental illness. But I think it's important that we kind of step back, look at it with an objective eye, understand structural racism, but understand how you can jump off the deep end and how racism can form into mental illness. Or sometimes racism can be two different, two different oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for? Ideas that are a part of someone. They can be racist and they also can have mental illness. And you couple that together, this is how you get mass shootings that are based on race and white supremacy. So, hey, this is just my thoughts. And politicians are not going to get to it. Your local Congress, people will talk about it, but like the talk of gun control, they're going to sweep it under the rug. The only way where we can seriously deal with these issues is if the people that understand racism, that understand structural racism, and understand mental illness apart from that, and how it is negatively affecting this country, they will have to take those same seats that can change how the system is working and start working and start dealing with the real issues that are affecting Americans in this country. And hopefully in some ways it can start spreading out and reach out to other countries around the world that's dealing with racism themselves. So that's it. That's my thought. I appreciate people listening to me. Thank you. We're going to be out of here. It was a bunch of great music, and we'll see you, or I'll talk to you next week. And if anybody has a problem with what I'm saying, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about it. So join Lyfeblood.com. One more thing, join Lyfeblood.com, become a member, be a lifer, set up your profile, create your network, and whatever passions that you have, ask people for a minimum $1. Let's start creating that global network, that global community where we can start looking to each other for these answers that we're looking for. And one thing that we can work on as a part of Lyfeblood.com is mental illness, and how do we deal with that, and how we can institutionalize mental illness treatment in the communities that we live in. And being a lifer can implement that, and I'm open to the conversation. So thank you guys. I'll see you next week, and we'll talk soon.